Good morning. Let's start with some good news. Rust shouldn't be a problem in accident-free cars. The paint is average, but nothing particularly groundbreaking. The competition is usually not noticeably better in this respect. Unfortunately, the chrome emblems or decorative strips are of poor quality. This does not interfere with the use of the car in any way, but it does affect how it looks. A recurring problem is damp rear lights. The quality of the leather upholstery is so-so, sometimes the door handles inside the car break. The electrical system and some of the equipment that uses it, such as the air conditioning compressor, are of average quality. The condition of the harness in the boot lid requires attention. If it starts to wear out, and in early models it probably will sooner or later, it can result in, among other things, random operation of the rear window wiper. Although the rear axle is equipped with a multi-link suspension, this does not change the overall good assessment of the durability of the compact Alfa's chassis. In the suspension, the rear axle stabilizer links usually give out. A bigger problem is knocking steering gears, steering racks, or damaged front axle wishbones, but this does not seem to be a plague. It is worth checking the rear suspension geometry to avoid premature tire wear. The durability of the brakes leaves little to be desired, but it must be remembered that the Giulietta could have one of 3 sizes of discs on the front axle and one of 2 on the rear axle, so when buying, unless you leave it to a mechanic, caution is required. Front discs with a diameter of 281 mm were fitted to the basic 1.4 TB engines and the 1.6 diesels. The more powerful 1.4 TB multi-air engines and the 2.0 diesels have 305 mm discs, while in versions powered by the 1.75 TBI engines, the diameter of the front discs is 330 mm. The rear axle discs are 278 mm, 1.75 TBI, or 264 mm in diameter, in all other versions. Larger brakes were also available as an option for less powerful versions. The Giulietta was equipped with 3 types of petrol engines. The simplest option was the 1.4 TB from Turbo Benzina with 105 or 120 HP. The weaker engine was available in the 2011 to 2020 model years, while the more powerful one was available throughout the car's production. Those looking for slightly better performance but without the cost of higher fuel consumption could opt for the 1.4 TB multi-air engines. Initially, only the 170 horsepower version was available. In 2016, it was joined by a 150 horsepower engine. The top Giuliettas were equipped with 1750 TBI units. Until 2013, they reached 235 HP and were combined with manual gearboxes. Later, the power was increased by 5 HP and a TCT double-clutch gearbox was added. The 1.4 TB engines are the same as the T-Jet engines used in Fiats. It's hard to say anything about repeatable faults because apart from cracking IHI turbocharger housings, costing around 1,000 Polish zlotys to repair, nothing serious actually happens here. There's not even direct injection, which is why many people decide to install a gas system. A slightly more complicated option is the multi-air unit. They differ from regular TB units in the cylinder head, where an electrohydraulic valve control system developed by Fiat was used. Interestingly, it takes up space normally intended for one of the camshafts, which is why 1.4 TB MA engines have only one camshaft, while the weaker TBs have 2. But both have 4 valves per cylinder. And it is the multi-air module that sometimes fails. The symptoms are different, but you can expect, among other things, strange sounds coming from the engine compartment, or, for example, operation on 3 cylinders. Fortunately, MA activator failures are not a plague. They mainly affect the oldest cars, as well as those where the oil was changed too rarely, or was of insufficient quality. On the other hand, users of these cars recommend on club internet forums to treat multi-air modules as a consumable element and, just in case, when buying a car, to be prepared that it will have to be replaced. In both 1.4 TB and 1.4 TB MA, you need to check the condition of the cooling system. Damaged pipes and radiators can happen. Sometimes you can come across small oil leaks and cracked intake manifolds. In older cars, later a corrected element was used. Among petrol engines, the most draining option is the top-of-the-range 1750 TBI engine, although this draining is not due to above-average failure rates, but simply to relatively high fuel consumption and higher maintenance costs than in the 1.4 TB per terabyte MA. The 1750 TBI engine also has direct fuel injection, so any LPG installation pays off longer. Comments? There are a few, but nothing terrible. Mechanics suggest shortening the timing belt replacement interval from 140,000 kilometers to 80,000 kilometers, especially if the owner's driving style is dynamic. Here too, you need to be careful about changing the oil. 15,000 kilometers between changes is a safe maximum. Another thing, the water pump. In substitutes of unknown origin, bearings sometimes seize, so it is better to choose products from well-known companies. Otherwise, you risk destroying the engine, because a seized pump bearing results in a broken timing belt. And since we're on the subject of timing drive, sometimes faulty tensioners happen. There may be a small amount of engine oil consumption. The issue of fuel for the 1750 TBI remains unresolved. Some mechanics advise filling up with 98-octane petrol, among other things, due to concerns about the condition of the lambda sensor. Others recommend 98-octane because theoretically there is a lower risk of baptizing such fuel at the station. Even among users of such cars there is no consensus. Some fill up with 95, others 98. Most people do not see a difference in the engine's behavior. There are only a few voices that the car drives more efficiently on 98 octane at high above motorway speeds. People who have increased or intend to increase the power of this engine should certainly be interested in fuel with a higher octane number. The Italian compact could be equipped with one of two diesel engines, each in different power versions. The smaller unit is the 1.6 multijet and the larger one the 2.0 multijet. All diesels have 4 valves per cylinder. The 1.6 had 105 HP until 2015. Later the power increased to 120 HP. The 2.0 JTDM versions can have 140, 150, 170, or 175 HP. The latter variant appeared only with the TCT double-clutch transmission. In 1.6, the main failures are the equipment, such as the EGR valve or DPF filter. Coolant leaks occur. Apart from that, there are no comments. It is worth remembering that the 105 horsepower version has a turbine with fixed blade geometry and the 120 horsepower version with variable. In the event of a turbine failure in the more powerful version, its regeneration or purchase of a new one will be more expensive. 2.0 JTDM is also a good choice. You do have to watch out for the condition of the cooling system, including the water pump, but the risk of failure is rather small on a daily basis. As with the 1.6, the exhaust gas recirculation valve, EGR, may cause problems. In other words, diesels in the Alfa Giulietta usually surprise, with almost nothing more than the standard package of faults for modern diesels. In principle, only those who drive mainly in the city should approach them with caution. All Giuliettas are front-wheel drive, transmitted via a 6-speed manual gearbox or a double-clutch gearbox with the same number of ratios. Manual is a good choice. This Alfa Romeo model did not use the unsuccessful and failure-prone M32 gearbox, but a much better C635 gearbox. True, in the first years there was grinding when engaging one of the 2 first gears and/or catching, but the manufacturer repaired it under warranty, and newer cars should be free of this defect. A possible defect may concern cars from 2010 and 2011, although sometimes changing the oil in the gearbox alone helps. Compared to other double-clutch transmissions on the market, the TCT gearbox also performs well. Provided that the oil is changed regularly, problems are rare, and if they do, they're usually caused by a battery that is too weak, discharged, or, for example, with parameters worse than the factory ones. And this leads to problems with the operation of various sensors and error messages. If the TCT does not require it, it is worth starting with a simple restart of the car. Sometimes the gearbox calms down, and you can continue your journey without problems, although of course, it is worth diagnosing the car later anyway. You can also find out if there is any update of the gearbox software for your car. Older Alfa Romeo models, maybe not all and not in all versions, but a large part of them, had the problem of requiring the owner to sacrifice durability for style and driving experience. Some agreed to this and were more or less satisfied, but the Giulietta allowed you to choose a distinctive car without giving up durability and reliability, which are quite good here. It is especially worth emphasizing this in relation to the drive system. Not only are there no failed M32 manual gearboxes, but both petrol and diesel engines are quite refined designs, something that could not be said about the older 2.0 TS and JTS, for example. And then there is the issue of much better corrosion protection. And if you know of any common errors, your comments are welcome.